Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio.
Hello, dear friends. Welcome to Kardec Radio, to this very special program, Jesus, the Divine Medium. My name is Palloma Peterson, and it's always a pleasure being here with you. And of course, with the higher spirits, the mentors of Kardec Radio, and our own mentors that come to inspire us today and to support us. And we have special friends that are coming to join us for this presentation. Welcome, Luiz and Mackenzie. How are you, friends?
Hello, everyone. It's so nice to be here at Kardec Radio once again, especially talking about him. Capital H, please.
That's true. Thank you for having us. It's a pleasure to be here at Kardec Radio, and especially with these very special friends to talk about him.
The friend, right? Jesus, the friend. And tonight we're going to talk about Jesus as the divine medium. So Luiz and Mackenzie, we can't wait to hear from you. But for now, I will do a short introduction and I will bring you back shortly. All right?
Okay.
So friends, we're going to just start with an opening before Luiz and Mackenzie come back to talk more about Jesus. Right now, we want to recap what does Jesus means in Spiritism. Is Jesus just what we read in the Bible? What does it mean for us? Let us start. First of all, we know that Jesus is the governor of our planet. He was here from the creation of it, during it, in charge of it. So in Spiritism, we understand Jesus as the governor of the planet, the leader that is in charge of everything else that is happening here. We also know that because he is in charge of everything, there's a reason that God allowed him to be in charge. And that's because he's already a very elevated spirit. For us, he is our best guide and model. So much so that Kardec, on the Spirit's book, asked the question 625, what is the most perfect example that God has offered man as guide and model? And the spirits were direct. Jesus. He is our example of humility, of goodwill, and of course, love for all. He came to teach us that in this life, we are supposed to learn how to love everyone. He had already achieved perfection, both morally and intellectually. Why do we say intellectually? Because he knew about everything you can imagine. All the subjects we go to school, science, medicine, he knew it all. But he also had the moral laws aligned with the divine. And friends, as we said right at the beginning, he is also the friend. He came to really help us. The divine friend knows what it is in us. He knows the dark and heavy burden of our past, the difficulties of our present, full of hesitations and wrongs. Nevertheless, he lovingly holds out his hand to us. That is Emmanuel on the book Living Spring, chapter 109. Jesus is also our divine teacher. Allan Kardec in the Gospel according to Spiritism said, that Jesus came to teach humans that true life is to be found not on the earth, but in the kingdom of heaven, to teach them the way that leads there, the means of reconciling themselves to God, and to forewarn them regarding the progress of future things for the fulfillment of human destiny. Jesus, as our guide and model, came to demonstrate to us what do we need to do to keep ourselves progressing always. And as he knows that we are still in a learning path, he's always here to console us. So Jesus is also the consoling Christ. He said, "Come unto me, all you who suffer and who are overburdened, and I will comfort you." That's on Matthew. And friends, before we bring Luiz and Mackenzie, the last reminder for us that Jesus also was the divine physician. We know so much about his miracles, which we understand a little bit different in Spiritism. He knew how to manipulate the fluids, but not only he treated the body, but most importantly, he treated the spirit. So now, friends, keeping Jesus, visualizing him, and thinking of him, let us bring our friend Luiz so that he can give us even more insight into Jesus. Luiz, we are all yours.
Thank you, Palloma. I like what you said. It's a very interesting introduction. And, you know, like I said in the beginning, him with a capital H. Yeah, when I started studying Spiritism, that was a couple of decades ago. And of course, as you go along, you learn more, but, you know, the challenge becomes a little bigger too, because you got more questions. The more we study, the more questions we have. So in the beginning, when I first came across the idea of Jesus being said to be a divine medium, I said, I need to understand this better because it wasn't clear to me. So I want to, I would say, a black and white technical answer to this, which is kind of, how come Spiritism is going to give a black and white answer? But that's exactly what Spiritism is all about. So we have all these studies and books and literature. So I decided to take a route on studying this particular subject that was different from the standard, from everybody else. So I said, I need to look at this from, I would say, from a scientific point of view. And I said, you know, how come somebody or a spirit so highly evolved, so elevated, I mean, it has to go through all this trouble of 1,000 years preparing a perispirit to be able to perform an incarnation here on the planet. And I said, I need to understand this more. It's not clear to me. So I kind of branched out from the standard studies on Jesus being this divine medium or a medium for all purposes. And it took me time. It took me time to get there. And I only understood this when I read 3 books and I brought the information together. One was Evolution in Two Worlds by Luiz. The other was On the Way to the Light by Emmanuel. And the third was the Medium's book. So when I came and put the pieces together, everything, for me, at least for me, everything fell in place. So I wanted to share this idea with you guys if you're watching us here today. So I'm going to bring you some images, just because I think it's easier, visually speaking, you know, than a lot of words without any image. I think the visual is going to help a little bit. So we know that from God, 2 things are generated. First, universal cosmic fluid. Second, spiritual principle. Today, we're going to deal only with the universal cosmic fluid. The spiritual principle maybe another time. The universal cosmic fluid contains in it what we call the material principle, meaning everything that one day is going to be matter is in there. All these subatomic particles and everything is in there. And this is where the whole creation takes place. This is like the water for the tank. So the whole creation takes place within this universal cosmic fluid. And then what got me is, how come, for example, that was on my early days studying the subject. I said, how come me, myself, right, incarnated right now, how come I am able to take something that God just created, just came out of him, let's put it this way, and I'm able to transform this to do other things? I think there's something missing because I can't be that close to him. So in studying the subject, it became a lot clearer to me that there are spirits, very, 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 the highest evolved spirits that we can think of, the highest realm. They take the universal cosmic fluid right out of God, and they make this first batch of modifications. And they are able to generate cosmic dwellings. So you see, cosmic dwellings are formed by already a first tier modification of the universal cosmic fluid. Once cosmic dwellings are in place, then we have another group of spirits less evolved than the other ones, right? That will take those cosmic dwellings, and out of it, they will create what is called the starry empires. Out of the starry empires, another group less evolved than the other ones will create galaxies and constellations. You see, it's all a matter of layers, right? We start all the way up in the universal cosmic fluid, and it gets modified the first time, then a second time, then a third time. It's a progressive. These are progressive modifications. Out of these galaxies and constellations, planets are created. Out of one planet, so now we have several planets. Earth is one of them. Out of the planet Earth, there are two things. We have imponderable matter, which is the matter that our five senses cannot detect. For example, perispirit is made of imponderable matter for planet Earth, our perispirit. Each planet has its own imponderable matter. And under this, then we have ponderable matter, which is the matter that we know, a chair, a body, everything else. So I only understood this thing when I thought, hold on, who created the planet Earth, for example? It was him, right? Jesus. So he created, he coordinated the whole thing, the structure and everything else. It's actually very well described by Emmanuel in his book, On the Way to the Light. And he was able to create this. So if he was able to create these planets, he was, to say the least, part of those within galaxies and constellations, which is at least one layer up. So Spirit Emmanuel tells us this: cosmic dwellings, starry empires, galaxies, constellations, and planets are created by spirits. They are not God himself. God only touches the universal cosmic fluid. Nobody else generates universal cosmic fluid. Everybody can, spirits, highly evolved spirits can modify it, not create it. All the other layers down here, cosmic dwellings, starry empires, galaxies, constellations, and planets, are operated by another group of spirits. Spirit Emmanuel referred to this group of spirits with 4 different names, but they actually mean the same. It's just a way of putting the words together. So he will refer to these as divine intelligences, or the great devas, or the archangels, or glorious intelligences. You see, for somebody to create a planet, that somebody, that spirit, has to belong to this category. It has to be one of those. And just to complete the sketch here, Imponderable matter and ponderable matter here within the earth are operated by discarnate spirits and human intelligences. We are able to manipulate those. For example, we are not able to create a planet because it requires spirits to be much more evolved than what we are. And that's where Jesus comes in place. So for me, when I got to this particular drawing that you see here, that's when I started to put things into context and say, oh, okay. So now I understand. We are all the way down here within the inside the planet. So either imponderable matter or ponderable matter. And God is all the way up. And in between, that's where we have all these spirits that will make things happen. So this is, from that moment on, this is what I came to understand as Jesus being this divine medium. Not necessarily medium in the sense of those who are going to, for example, mediumistic meeting to bring messages from discarnate spirits to incarnate spirits. That's not it, because first of all, he didn't need anybody feeding him with information. He had that ability himself. He could generate all the messages that he brought to us and everything that he showed to us actually physically on the surface of the planet when he incarnated. So for me, the idea of Jesus being this divine medium had a different twist, meaning he is part of these great intelligences and so in between God and us, but he is not necessarily bringing a message from discarnate spirits. At the best, he is a direct messenger of God. So God delivers messages to the very highly evolved spirits. He would be one of them, where he has these messages coming directly from God, and he will pass it along to us directly when he was incarnated or through other highly evolved spirits under his guidance. So when I got to this, I said, oh, maybe what I was thinking as Jesus being a medium, a standard medium, let's just put it this way, that got me the wrong idea. It's much more than that. He's way, 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 way above all of these things. And then, there's situations where, for example, let's say cures, right? So you have medical intervention through mediums. It's the same thing. He did that a million times. He did cure people from all sorts of diseases. And so not because he was this medium and there was a doctor, a discarnated doctor helping him doing this. He did not have anybody on the other side doing this with him. He was doing that alone. That's the kind of power he had. That's the kind of mighty power he had because he was one of these glorious intelligences. So glorious that he was able to create a whole planet and do its physicality, its administration, and so and so and so. And like Palloma said in the beginning, he is our governor of the planet Earth. So I think that's what I wanted to maybe bring, my studies throughout all these years about this idea that Jesus is this divine medium. But in that sense, in the sense that, his perispirit, for example, his perispirit, if you look at the image here, it's not going to be within the imponderable matter of the planet Earth. He had to make it happen. It took 1,000 years, but actually it's way, way, way above. It's much, much, much more refined than the perispirits that we have here on the planet, either for discarnates or not, or incarnates. But so that's the idea I think I wanted to share with you guys. And maybe you can add something we'll discuss later. So thank you all.
Thank you, Luiz, so much. And we now bring our friend Mackenzie to also give his contribution.
Hello. I could spend I could spend more, 20 more minutes or even more listening to Luiz. I don't know about you guys, but I would love to hear more about what he had to say about all those, the graphic and all the explanations. I felt as if he was holding on so much because he didn't have the time to talk about it. So hopefully he has that talk somewhere else, so we can maybe later on watch more and hear more about it, because it's so interesting. And the way he puts it in the image that he showed. I don't know if everybody is looking or seeing this, but it was like those ellipses, and then one smaller ellipses, one inside the other, colorful, so that we could visualize really the difference between, all those spheres of creation from God above everything else, and then influencing everybody else. So tonight, or today, or um, during the day or during the night, wherever you are, whenever you are, maybe in the future watching this, watching us talk and reflect a little bit about our dear friend, or the divine friend, as Paloma and Luis pointed this out very well, our divine friend, Jesus, on this very special occasion. Talking a little bit about why it is Jesus a medium. And it's interesting that in the way Luis put it, can always go back and hear a little more. But it is very interesting because, when we talk about mediumship in Spiritism, it's usually, and it's, well, most of the time, and I would say always, when we are talking about ourselves and our relationship, the relationship of us incarnated with the ones that are discarnated, right? And we call it a mediumship because it's an intermediary, right? It's something that's in between two worlds. So we are here and we cannot regularly see the discarnate world. We cannot regularly see the discarnate spirits. And interact with them very clearly. So the people that have this ability to either see them or talk to them or hear them, or be a tool for them to write their thoughts and so on, these people are called mediums, right? Or psychics in some other groups. In Spiritism, we call them mediums. And the idea is, if Jesus is the divine medium, right? So if we take that message, or that sentence right there, Jesus, the divine medium, right? So what does that mean? Is Jesus a medium like what I just described? Is Jesus a medium that he sits down, or he could sit down and write the message as someone discarnated is dictating to him? Can he like heal other people using the mediumship, the healing mediumship, to heal other people? Or can he? And Kardec has a very, very interesting discussion about this. Actually, um, he talks about this in two different places, or more than two different places, but in two different places, which are very interesting and related. One is in the last book of the initial five big books of Spiritism, which is the Genesis, and it's in the beginning of chapter 15, when he discusses about the superiority of the nature of Jesus. And then there's another text which is not on the, let's say, on what we tend to call the basis of Spiritism, but it was a book that was published after he died, and that his wife gathered lots of writings that he had but had not published, but he had them written on his desk, probably when he died. And then she later on gathered all these texts and published this posthumous these posthumous works, right, under one tome, under one book. And there's this text where he discusses, even go a little further on the idea of was Jesus God or not. And in the Genesis, he doesn't want to go that far. So he doesn't discuss that on if Jesus was God or not. What he starts by saying is that let's take that Jesus is not God, because that's what we understand he is not. But I'm not going to discuss this, and I'm not going to go into detail. If we want to, if you want, we want to see a little more of what Kardec thinks why Jesus is not God. It's a very interesting text to go to posthumous works. But then he starts by saying this, but he also points out that although we as spiritists and we understand that Jesus is not God, and the graphic that Luiz just showed up to us, just showed us, uh, points out that very big difference. God is the one that creates the top layer. Then everybody else comes below God. So God is one, and there's no one else like God, and so on. And Jesus is one of the other spirits, is our guide and model, is the creator of our planet, and some people say that of other planets as well, which don't matter really to this discussion, because these spirits are so evolved, they are so up high in the scale of being more evolved than us, that to us it would not make any difference. I like one image, and I'm gonna uh, do a parenthesis here. You know, when we are driving, and if we have a very long highway and straight, very long and straight highway, and we see something coming on the opposite direction, we usually, depending on how far they are, we only see one spot of light. We only see that light. Why? Because it's so far away, so far ahead of us, that we cannot distinguish where the light is coming from, if it's from two headlights or if it's from one. So some people, I've seen this, probably you've seen this as well. Um, if it's too far away, we might even think that it's just a motorcycle. And then when we keep driving, and the other car or the other vehicle keeps driving on the opposite direction. All of a sudden, we start to distinguish those. If it's a car, if it's a truck, if it's bigger, we start to distinguish earlier. But we start to distinguish maybe 2 points of light, because now they are closer to us. And that's how I personally tend to look at this image of Jesus and God being the same or not the same. I think that Jesus is so far away from us, and God is so much farther away from us, that to some degree, when we look at Jesus and people say that Jesus is God, it might as well be, because we although intellectually we can figure out the difference, we can see the difference intellectually, but in a practical terms, it is very hard to understand why Jesus is different than God, other than this idea of creating one having creating the other. Because Jesus to us is so perfect, so perfect, so perfect, that there's nothing more perfect than Jesus, to a certain degree. But our senses, our intelligence tells us, and Spiritism shows us, that this is not the case. So Jesus is a creation of God, just like us, and that's why he at one point says, "You are gods." Right? He looking at us and say, "Hey, you can do what I do and much more." So he's telling us that we have the capability, we have all the possibilities, and we are, in fact and indeed, creatures of God that can become, and here with not capital G, but with small g, gods, in terms of we can be more perfect than we are today, and we can be progressing, and we will evolve just like Jesus did. And Jesus got to this level of being this divine medium. And so I go back to the idea of mediumship. What is this idea of mediumship that we were talking about? And why is Jesus this divine medium? And why are we using this topic or this title, Jesus the Divine Medium. And in this article, this text from the Genesis, items 1 and 2 from chapter 15 of the Genesis, chapter 15 of the Genesis, right at the very end of this item, the item number 2, Kardec says the following: according to a definition given of him by a spirit, he was a medium of God. So let's put ourselves now into this image. Jesus being a medium of God. And with the definition, or a smaller definition, or of mediumship or medium that I gave in the beginning, we are mediums of spirits, right? So we are here incarnated, and we are able, some of us more ostensibly, more more to the eyes, we can hear, we can see, we can talk to the spirits that are discarnated. Jesus, in that comparison, as Kardec says here, that the Spirit gave him the definition of what Jesus is, he says that Jesus is a medium of God. So it is very interesting that there's this distinction between us being a medium and Jesus being a medium. Jesus is so elevated, and in this text by Kardec, he discusses a little bit about this superiority of Jesus, that he is so aware of everything that's happening around him, not only physically, but mentally, and also psychically, and also spiritually around him, that he is not a medium to spirits. Because a spirit that is discarnated, to Jesus, it is as if he is incarnated, because Jesus is so aware of everything that's going on. He is so almost detached from the matter because of his elevation, or of his moral and intellectual elevation, that he doesn't need anything as special to talk to these spirits. He sees now and beyond. He sees what they are doing and what they intend to do. And we hear this in so many passages in the Bible, when the Gospels say, and Jesus knowing what they were going to do, and Jesus knowing what was behind their minds, and Jesus almost knows, or we can almost feel that Jesus knew what was going to happen after he did, or someone did something. Just for example, the woman that's there and was about to be stoned to death, and he says, don't throw the first stone, those who have not sinned. Everybody goes away. So it is almost as if he knew what was going to happen. And then he looks at her and said, where are those? Oh, they are not here. They all left. He said, so they didn't condemn you, so I don't condemn you too either. Go and sin no more. So it is as if he knew that we are, in this case, right, and quote unquote here, I'm doing the rabbit ears, quote unquote here, we are sinners, right? We still have that tendency of making mistakes, of committing crimes, of doing wrong things, and he knows that. He looks at us, and he looks deeper into us. And I tend to, having two kids, two girls, two beautiful girls. Well, they're not. One of them is not a girl anymore. you all know that. To me, they will always be my baby girls. But they grow up. When they were young, and I was talking to them, and they would come to ask me something, or to whatever it was. When we look at them, and we look at their questions, we look at their behavior, and we already almost know, we have the prescience of knowing of what they want and what they want to do with that. Why? Because we have a bigger awareness of everything that happens than what they have. They don't have our vision. and our experience of 30 years or 40 years or 50 years. Now imagine a spirit, just like Luiz explained a little while ago, that created Earth. Earth is about 4.5 billion years. And we don't even have words to express what 4 billion is, right? An exercise in math is just put the zeros there and imagine how many zeros that is. We live 100 years, 150 years. What do we know? Jesus created the earth 4.5 billion years. So how old must Jesus be? He must have been much older. He must be much older than 4.5 billion years, so that he has the power, the knowledge, the capability of creating Earth and of being the governor of Earth. So before he came here to talk to us and to teach us and to leave this message, he was already 5 billion years old. So how much do we really understand what Jesus is? So when we say that Jesus is the divine medium, is that he doesn't need any intermediary to talk to spirits who are discarnated, because he is almost as if he is discarnated himself. So he doesn't need to be a medium. God, however, is a different thing, because as in the Spirit's book we learn about, when Kardec asks if there are two elements to the universe, and that's, if I'm not mistaken, Luiz might correct me later, but if I'm not mistaken, it's question 27. I'm not good with remembering these things. Are there two elements to the universe? And then the Spirit's answer, there are three, actually. Well, the answer is different, but I can't remember the words. But what they say basically is, well, there are two elements. It's spirit and matter, and Luiz talked about one of them, and he said that at the beginning. The second one is the spirit, was a matter, spirit, but then there's God, which is outside of this. So there are three elements: God, which is above, and then these two, right? Spirit and matter, or matter and spirit. Now, if God is outside this, Jesus is a spirit without the influence of the matter. Now, God, Jesus, and God being above, Jesus is the medium of God. And in this sense, that's why Jesus is medium. He needs to communicate with God. He has this connection. Then that's why Kardec says, and I'm looking at the page here, that the Spirit said he is a medium from God. So he can communicate directly to God in a different way, say, than we can, right? When we say that, for example, a spirit or a medium, and I'm finishing this up, so I don't take too much time of you. I want to hear Luiz more, and Palloma as well. When I say, a medium talks to a spirit, and the spirit responds to him or writes through him, not all mediums, but some mediums can really talk to them, talk and hear physically. Sometimes they hear mentally only. They can see, and the spirit sees me. I can imagine God. I can talk to God from here to there, and when God responds to me, I will be receive maybe an intuition. I'm not going to be able to filter what God is saying straight to me. So I would need something else for the message of God to get to me. I would need Jesus for the message of God to get to me. Jesus, being a medium, a divine medium in that sense, is that he can talk directly to the Creator and be in this straight connection, straight line. This is a little, philosophical, and but it is very interesting for us to think about our own relationship with people here. And it's not that we cannot communicate with him. We can, and when I so that I can finish. When I look at the horizon, right, when I'm at the beach and I look at the horizon and I think of all those ships that were coming when they first came to the United States, or to Brazil, or to whatever place in the world, and those indigenous people, or whomever, they were looking at the line of the horizon, and they start seeing those ships coming. They don't know what's going to happen, right? Because it's coming from there. So it's that big surprise. One day we decided that we wanted to go, and then we went, and we didn't know what we would find over that line. The horizon is that line that divides the unknown from the known, but it provides us, or it gives us that that distinction from the line, that from people that come from there and people that go from here to there. And to me, when I personally look at the horizon, it tells me that I will never get there. Nevertheless, it makes me want to go there. It is as if it's that thing that I want to get to, but it's always escaping. But it's not escaping in a sense that it doesn't want me to get there. No, it's alluring me to get there because it wants me to get there. It wants me to move. It wants me to walk towards him. To me, that's Jesus. And furthermore, to me, that's God in that sense. Jesus, to me, is the medium to God, is the model, is the guide, is the divine medium in that sense. He is that intermediary from me to God. Other people, other cultures, other countries, other planets have other Jesuses, as Luiz explained in the beginning, which don't really matter. If they are that far away, that far high from us, to us, they would be only one light. And that light is the light that points to us. And if we follow it, points us to God. So Jesus being this divine medium to me, to all of us, to me, it shows me and tells me, keep going, keep moving. You're on the right direction. Follow the light, because I am only being a medium of the light of God. Jesus, the divine medium, that intermediary, that's a perfect glass that allows the light from God to shine through him and get to us. So it's that medium right in the beginning, in between God and us. And let's keep moving. Let's keep moving, just like the horizon makes me want to keep moving towards him with capital H, and towards God with capital G. And that's what I had to say. And thank you for your patience. Thank you, Palloma. Thank you, Luiz. And here we are, back again, all three together.
Thank you,
Mackenzie, with a capital M.
Yeah. See, it's PPLLMN. Did you notice this?
Oh, you look at that.
No. Mackenzie, the visual of the road with the light ahead of us, it really, now that you wrapped up thinking of Jesus as that transparent glass and the light shining to us, it really created a beautiful image in my mind, as we are the recipient always of God's love.
Yeah.
Always. And this awareness that Jesus is our guide and model, but we will be there too, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about the superiority of Jesus' fluids, and it doesn't mean that he's just far away from us to a level that we won't ever reach, but instead is that he is our teacher so that we get there. And so I wanted to thank you very much for that image, as it brought Jesus even closer to me at this very moment. But I wanted to ask you a question, because when we say that Jesus is the medium of God, that he's aligned with God, what does that mean? Because some of us understand the divine laws, but if you're new to Spiritism, What does it mean to be aligned with God? And how do we get there?
Luis, go ahead. I think it's for you. Now it's for you. I want to hear you.
No, I think it's yeah. People new to Spiritism, they will have that question. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a very common thing actually. Um, yeah. First of all, I think what's difficult for most people outside Spiritism or the newcomers is to see Jesus not as a physical body, 70 trillion cells. Okay, that was put on a cross. There was blood coming out of his wounds, because that's the image propagated by the church for 2,000 years, and it's a very strong image. And if you think about it, even outside Christianity, it's still a very strong image. Uh, any religion, any other religion other than Christianity, will be able to tell us, "Oh, Jesus, that guy on the cross," and so I think it's we created such a low image of Jesus that it puts us almost like, oh yeah, now I understand why he's saying you can do the same things that I do. But it's the other way around. Not because he came down, because we need to go up. And it's a long shot. The road ahead is very long. It will take a long time for us. If you think about the image that I put in the beginning, is if you were going to go from the planetary fluid here, right, imponderable matter, and you have to cross all the way up to be at least in the cosmic dwellings realm. And this is something that requires a lot of work, a lot of different moral standards, of course, much different than what we have here today. It involves having perispirits, much more refined than we have. The degree of purity in general has to be totally different than ours. That's why he is so close to God, because he's almost there. He's almost part of as the fluid itself, the universal cosmic fluid. He's the one up there. So the degree of purity that he carried, what he carries, right, is completely different than ours. So it doesn't mean that we're not going to get there. By the way, that's very clear in Spiritism. We know where we are going to get to, but there are challenges, and we put our own Himalayas in front of us. We put our own mountains and difficulties in front of us, and it becomes a trial and error process. But there's a point where we reach a certain level of intelligence that we don't have to do trial and error anymore. Now we can use intelligence to make better choices. And that's why I think the Spirit tells us that moral progress, intelligence progress has to come before moral. So we get to this level, and now we go, oh, okay, now from this point on, I will make different choices, because now it makes sense to me to make different choices. We kind of get educated, if you will. So yeah, it's a long process. Everything he did was automated in his perispirit. Charity was something automated in his perispirit, if you will. For us to do charity, we have to stop everything else, concentrate. We have to, we can sustain charity for 5 minutes, and then we don't do anything like that for 2 years. Then we do another 3 minutes of, full-blown charity, right? Unconditional love, anything like this. For him, it was just like we do digestion, right? We don't need to stop in that. Don't talk to me because I'm digesting food. We don't do this because it's a process that has been automated in our perispirit. Same for heartbeat and all the functions in the body. So for him, charity, justice, this is already automated for him. He doesn't have to think and consider things. Just do it. For us, no, we have to stop. And it's a life project to do a charity next Sunday, for example. I want to do a 1 hour of charity next Sunday. It's a life project. We need to get help from everybody else. We need to stop. And for him, it's different. That tells us the difference in the degree of purity, moral purity.
And Luiz, you said, the magic word, which is he loved all. which we're learning. We're not there, but that is what is to be in alignment with God, is this ability just to love. And when you love, then it's like you're saying, helping others is not now helping. It's just part of being, because you're just there and you love all the beings that are around you at all times. And that's Jesus and God, unconditional love. We're yet to understand what that means and feel it,
Yeah,
right? And feel it.
I think we know unconditional love. We cannot just sustain it. For example, think of let's say you have a young children, a young kids, 2 years old, 3 years old, something like that. And for some reason, they want to do something that you know it's wrong. Let's just say something very simple. They want to put their little fingers in the outlet, the electrical outlet. It's not going to be fun. So you kind of forbid. You know, no, 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 a million times. So at one point, they get mad and they will, you know, just close their fist and come to us. Yeah, I hate you. They do that sometimes, or little things that don't matter, but they do it. When that happens, what do we do? Do we say, yeah, let me close my fist and do the same thing and I hate you too? No, we don't. We stop everything. We take that little kid, raise him up against our chest. You hug him for 1 minute, 2 minutes, 2 minutes. During that time, there is no bills to pay. There are no bad neighbors. There is no politician that I don't like. There is no relative that I want to say things. You see, you will come back when you put him down on the floor, but that is unconditional love. The only thing that the spirit or the soul is doing during those 1, 2 minutes is unconditional love. Nothing else matters. Nothing is being thought about. So it's not that we don't know what unconditional love is. We we have a glimpse, but we cannot sustain. We can only do this maybe 10 times in our lifetime. So, same for charity and same for justice.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
We will get there. And Mackenzie, I wanted to get back to, you were mentioning the Genesis chapter 15, and it's in the same chapter that is discussing miracles. So the question, thinking of Jesus as the divine medium, was he intermediating anything when he was doing his healings?
God.
Call it miracles.
God. That's what he was intermediating. He was intermediating God. He was using whatever he can, and because he can use anything, by talking straight to God and say, "Hey, uh, Dad, right? Jesus would, Dad. So can I use this here now?" And God would probably tell him, "Oh, yeah, go ahead," or "No, not right now. Do it, but do it." It's a conversation between people that really care, and like Luis said, that love the other, and they would probably talk among them and say, "Is what are the repercussions of this? Can I do this now?" Or "I can't do it now. Why I can do it, or why can't I do it now?" And they have it's such an intricate question, and an intricate answer, that it is complex for us, because we cannot see all the little dots that are connected to that specific person at that specific moment, right? We there's a there When I was studying in college, and right at the beginning, that was I don't want to remember how long ago it was, but it was a long ago. You can see by and Luis as well, the color of the hair. um, I was learning or studying physics, right? And there was this sentence that I never forgot, never forgot. So we're talking about the influence of things in calculating positions of objects. So we were talking about, and then there was this book, and the professor came to us and gave us this book to read and then to create something. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I remember the sentence. So the sentence was, for you to calculate precisely when you're in the example was, there's this table with the balls and the what's the stick. I don't know the names of these things on the pool table where you're playing ball there. And he says you hit one ball, you hit the white ball to hit the black ball, and then the black ball hits the other 9 balls on the table. For you to predict where all the balls are going to be precisely, and we're not talking about precisely in terms of 1 inch, no, they were talking about micrometers or nanometers. He said the following sentence: if we don't take in consideration the gravity of one atom at the edge of the galaxy, we will get the ball at the wrong position. A galaxy for us, like the Milky Way, for us to cross from one side to the other, if I'm not mistaken, Luiz, is about 100,000 years. We have no idea what 100,000 years is. When we get from one side, if we get from one, this is traveling at the speed of light, right? So if we come from one side to the galaxy to the other side of the galaxy at the speed of light, when we get out from this point to this point, we will be spirits, like high elevated spirits, because it's such a long time that we will go up and down, and all of a sudden we will realize something, and then we start going up, because I cannot waste any more time. So it's 100,000 years. It's a lot of time. So when Jesus is curing someone, healing someone, he knows a lot of connections with God and what that life is. He doesn't need help of spirits that are around him. But let me make a parenthesis here. Not having the need doesn't mean that it's not the same as not using them or not asking for their help. Otherwise, he would have come here and would have not asked for help of a lot of people around him. It's completely different. Not having the need is not the same thing as not asking for help, because it's not for him, it's for the other, the one that's going to be healed and the one that's helping, right? So he does not work alone. And that's one other teaching from this idea of being a medium of God, is that being a medium of God doesn't mean that he wants and he will do it alone. No. So when we say that Jesus created earth, we're not saying that Jesus only and alone by himself in an office decided to create earth and created earth all by himself, putting no. It's a group of people. It's a group of spirits that are together with him, helping him do this. He is the coordinator. He is the governor, as we like to say. And the governor has a lot of people around him to help him govern. In Jesus' case, probably he would have the capability of doing a lot more alone, but we all need help. And we all, when we want to do something good, we all want help. It's not only need, it's we want help. We want everybody together. A terrible teacher is a teacher that knows everything about the topic that he wants to know, that he's teaching. But he doesn't want anybody to know more than he does. Jesus is the other way around. He knows everything. He knows stuff that we don't even know that we don't know, but he wants us to know and know more than he does. He wants us to raise to his level. Like Luiz was saying, it is hard. It takes a long time, but he is here. Those who are not against us are for us, he says. So that's what he's doing. don't worry about the other ones when Peter comes to him. No, if they're not against us, they're for us. So let them do it. It doesn't matter if they're taking, if they're not talking about us or about the message. No, it doesn't matter. Which it doesn't matter if I'm not Christian, if I'm not Buddhist, if I'm not. It doesn't matter. He does not care about this. Who cares about this? Us. Unfortunately, we still care about this. Jesus, God, they don't care about this. Just one last thing. If I were born in Jupiter or in a planet that we don't know the name, in a different universe or in a different galaxy, I would not call the spirit that was there to leave a message Jesus. So why do I care the name of Jesus? Why does he care? He is the governor of this planet, but in another planet, it's not Jesus. We will not find Matthew. We will not find John. We will not find Luke. We will not find Mark, but we will find a gospel. Maybe not even with the name of a gospel. It will be a different name. We will not call God God. We will not call Jesus Jesus. It will be a different spirit with a different name. But the message will be the light that shines through the messenger, through the medium of God of that system, of that planet. Jesus is the medium of God in that sense. And he doesn't do miracles. He just works with the laws of nature, with what God allows us to do.
Thank you, Mackenzie, so much. And as we approach the end of our discussion, I would like to invite you both for final remarks, considering that we are celebrating Christmas. We know that Jesus does send special emissaries during the month of December. So we are receiving these vibrations. What can we leave for our listeners to meditate during this time? Luiz, do you want to start?
Yeah, well, Christmas is always different. It's always more the whole fluidic atmosphere of the planet gets better by itself. By itself, of course, there's a reason for that. And I think in our hearts, one way or another, we know that time is coming. We know it's time for rethink or at least reconsider everything he came to teach, everything that was written about what he said, everything that was disseminated about what he brought to us. And I think it became such a natural behavior for us. In late November, early December, we start to be different because, and the media has some good participation on this thing, by bringing, information, movies, a lot of movies about Christmas and stuff. That all helps a little bit. And personally, for each one of us, I think we need to look at our lives and see how do I compare this particular time of the year, okay, approaching Christmas, to, let's say, 5 or 10 years ago. Am I doing anything better? Am I feeling better at this time of the year? Because I'm supposed to. If I'm not, then yeah, I need to work on that more. I need to live the Christmas days for longer, not just 2 or 3 days. I need to make it a month. And maybe in 10 years, I'll make it 3 months. And that's the overall progress of our being. But I think the time of the year has a great impact on our society in general because it has impact in each one of us. And society is a collective being made by each one of us. So, yeah, let's just enjoy the time and, think about it and think and behave. I think that's one of the things that makes it. We make it difficult for ourselves. We spiritists, we might believe that the spirit is immortal, but it's different than living as a immortal spirit. If we don't live as an immortal spirit, our choices might not be the best choices. A very typical thing has nothing to do with politics, but a very typical situation is voting for anything, for all the way up to the president to a small group. You have to elect somebody in a group of 5 or 10 people to be the leader of the group. We can always make that vote, cast that vote as a person or as an immortal spirit. And most likely the outcomes are different.
Mackenzie, how about your final remarks?
Yeah, I vote for Luiz, and I guess that this vote is from the immortal spirit. So I want to, yeah, I agree. I totally agree. And yeah, I just want to say, I mean, happy, or not happy, right? It's happy Christmas. But I have this question for you before we finish. For you too, why for everything else is happy, and for Christmas is merry? It's not to have an answer. It's just for us to think about. Christmas is so different. It's so different that it is not happy. It's merry. It is
Yeah.
as if it's more than happy. It is as if it needs to be. We need to find what Luis said. We need to find something that it's more than happy within ourselves. And it is the representation of Jesus being born. So what does that mean to me? For different people it means different things. It might not mean anything because I'm not a Christian, but what is the meaning of your baby being born, right? It is a big meaning. It is a life-changing moment. The Christmas represents a life-changing moment, and we are reminded of it once a year, just like our own birthdays. So hopefully this season or next season, or it was a season before, this moment already hit me, already hit you, already hit anyone that's listening to this, because it is a moment of self-reflection. It is a moment of realizing what I did for myself, for the others, for the community, and what do I want to leave for this world? Because the representation of a baby being born is, to me, the one of the biggest representations of hope that God gives to us. There's always hope. There's always the new coming. There's always a renovation. So Christmas is a renovation of ourselves. For Paul of Tarsus, or Saul of Tarsus, Jesus was born when he was in a desert, as we hear people say. Um, for me, it was this. For Luis, it was that. For Paloma, it was something else. Let's make this Christmas a moment of remembrance, of remembering Jesus. If we want to give gifts, let's give gifts, but let's at least give gifts with a smile, with wishing good things, but not only thinking about the present itself, but what that gift represents in terms of companionness, of being together, of becoming a family, a stronger family. Because when we base ourselves on the individuals and on the families that we form, we are striving to make this country, this place, wherever you are, a better place. So to me, Christmas is this moment where we gather together to think about Jesus and his hope for us, his big hope for humanity, because he came to show us that there is a way. He didn't come to destroy the law, he came to fulfill the law. It might take longer for us, but one day we will love, like Luis said, as we are giving a big hug on our kid that just did something that he shouldn't do.
Thank you, Mackenzie. And I want to finish with Emmanuel. And on the book, Living Spring, the last chapter on the book, chapter 180, it's Christmas. And I'll just read the last two paragraphs for us to wrap up. The message from Emmanuel to us. He says, brothers and sisters, you who hear the sweet echoes of the angels' miraculous song at Christmas, remember that the Master came to us so that we may love one another. Christmas, good news, goodwill. Let us extend sympathy to all and let us truly begin to live with Jesus in the splendor of a new day. So, friends, from Emmanuel to us, the invitation to rejoice in this Christmas time, bringing what matters the most, our spiritual life, these moments of reflection, meditation, of family time. It is so important. And Jesus always inviting us for a new beginning. So I want to thank Luiz and Mackenzie on behalf of Kardec Radio for being here with us for such a special programs. And to our friends that are connected, we wish you many blessings, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and allow the good spirits to come visit you at this time. Healing will happen to you and your loved ones. So we will leave you now with a big hug, a kiss in your hearts, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Thank you,
Bye.
guys.
Thank you.